Today, the Ruger Super Redhawk and how I landed on this fine, heavy-duty revolver. This was a long time in the process of getting to this point, but I wanted to talk to you about this a little bit today. Years ago, I'm going to say about 30 years ago, I decided that I wanted to go the 44 Magnum route. All my friends were shooting 38s and 357 Magnums, and I just wanted something I could cut trees down with, and I could do some deer hunting with, some hog hunting. Also, just the power of the 44 Magnum. Of course, I grew up in a time when Clint Eastwood was shooting his Model 29 Smith. So I started off with the Smith & Wesson Model 629, and it didn't take me long of shooting that with some hand loads that I had shot it loose, and I had to send it back to the factory. They got it fixed back up again, and I decided that wasn't the gun for me. I wanted something that was a little heavier duty than that. So the 629 went packing, went to a good family, and away she went. Then I decided I would try what had the reputation of being a good, strong 44 Magnum. So I bought a Ruger Super Blackhawk, and it was with the Dragoon style trigger guard, which is square. And the first day I shot that, my hand was bleeding, and I realized that that was not the gun for me. I changed the grip on it and tried to endure it and tried to love it. And it was slow to load because it had the single load gate, cowboy style. You had to open up a little window on the side and put in one round. And then every time you went to unload it, same thing. Had to open the little load gate, put the hammer at half cock, twirl the cylinder around, and push out each individual round. And that was as slow as molasses on a cold day, so that wasn't for me. So then I finally stepped up to the Super Redhawk, and then I was very happy. The Super Redhawk is a very strong gun. It is built like a tank. It locks up like a bank vault, has a triple lockup. And the more I started studying this gun, now I am the camera crew today. You can see one hand. I'm not a man with only one hand, but I am running the camera. So I will try not to cowboy this. Several people got on to me about that. Even though these are real strong guns, you don't want to slam that cylinder. You want to kind of go easy with the cylinder when you close it and rock it back and forth, make sure it's locked. So we'll do that today. But I wanted to talk about how they came up with this, how this gun is produced. Now, if you want to see some great details on this, go ahead and pull your YouTube up and go to Ruger, how it's manufactured, and you will see some fantastic stuff. What caused me to really get into the study of this was when Ruger came out with their 454 Casull. It was quite a feat that Mr. Bill Ruger Jr. did on that. He saw it as a challenge because everybody else was scared of that high-pressure cartridge. That cartridge is where this is around 42,000 for a 44 mag. You step up to the 454 Casull, it's 62,000. So he was wanted to build them in a 6-shot, and everybody else stayed with 5 holes on the cylinder to give a little more meat between them. So he went with a company called Carpenter's Technology, and they suggested some of their custom 465. I'll just show you that right there. Some 465 premium grade stainless steel. It's melted in it's called martensic or martensitic. Martensitic may be the proper way to say that. It's good for 250,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. So it's very, very strong. And they are experts at building that alloy. They know exactly how much stuff of everything to put in it. One of the big elements they put in there is titanium, which gives it some of its strength, its durability, long-lasting durability. And then with that martensic, however you want to pronounce that, M-A-R-T-E-N, martensitic. It is able to be age-hardened, which is not 20 years maybe like you would a wine or 5 years like you would cheese, but it may be hours or minutes at certain temperatures, and all they have to do is add a certain amount of carbon and they add the carbon, keep adding the carbon, and they will get that stainless steel to where you can heat treat it like you would conventional metal. So that's pretty fantastic stuff. So Mr. Ruger is definitely willing to work with other people that are more advanced in that area. He ended up building a cylinder for it, and then they built a special barrel out of another material. So they are experts. I only introduced 454 just to let you know. They are experts at dealing with stainless steel. Now, Ruger for years has used investment casting, and I did not have a clue what that meant. I thought that meant that it was cheap built because it wasn't forged. A lot of your 1911 guys through the years would argue with me and say, well, boy, you got to have a forged slide and a forged barrel and a forged frame. Everything needs to be forged. And then I began to study what investment casting was all about and realized casting has been done for 5,000 years. The Chinese did it. They did it back in biblical days. They were casting copper and bronze to make statues and things of that nature, and jewelry and spear tips and all kinds of things were investment casting. Investment casting nowadays is very, very advanced technology. They have a machinist. He builds a mold of the part that they want. They inject it with a special wax. It's a special temperature, special controlled wax. Once they get the wax injected in the mold, they break the mold into two parts, pull it out, and now you can make a very complex piece. Now you've got a wax piece, and you dip that into a ceramic liquid, a slurry, and then that liquid you can start putting a little bit of fine sand over that, make a coating, and then fire the whole thing up in a furnace, and you've got yourself a beautiful mold that's very precise on the inside. Maybe a little rough looking, looks like a little bit of stucco on the outside, but that part doesn't matter. That's just to hold everything together. So then they pour this very high quality stainless steel inside that mold and do all kinds of special heat treating. It's vacuumed and all kinds of things, put nitrogen in there to keep the surface clean, and I mean, it is very high tech. Some of this stuff right here, this custom 465 is aerospace. And I mean, they just go to the nth degree on building these guns. So when someone tells you, yeah, them Ruger's pretty strong, they don't even realize how stout these guns actually are. I'll give you another example. Got a little crying in the background. That's somebody crying because they haven't bought a Ruger yet. So y'all just ignore that. This barrel, now this gun's unloaded, but this barrel, look at that thing. You could use it as a truck axle, a stub axle, or you could use it as a gun barrel. That is a hammer forged, it's a cold hammer forged barrel. Say, well, that's not the most accurate method in the world. You could use button rifling like they used in the precision rifling industry, and that's the most, that may be, but for a pistol, this is still extremely accurate, well into the one MOA category for shooting short range, 25 yards, 50 yards. I promise you, it'll be more accurate than you ever will be. So the way that they do these barrels, now I'm going to talk about this just a little bit. They take this barrel and they heat it to a certain point, and it expands. They've already got it bored, and then to put the rifling in there, instead of dragging a tool through it, so you could stick a tool up in there or drag or push a tool through there, and it could cut some lands and grooves, and then you run it through again, and then you run it through again, and then by Friday, you've got a guy comes in a little tired to factory maybe, or the tool's got a little extra wear on it, and he cuts the threads, and your Friday barrel will not be the same standard that your Monday barrel was. So that's no good. So a cold hammer forged barrel, what they do is they take the pattern of your threads that you want to be on the inside of this. They build a rod that is going to be the mirror image of what you want. They put it inside there. This rod's going to be made out of carbide. Carbide's very, very hard. You're not going to, it's pretty brittle, but it's very hard. So then this just being a tube on a machine, you'd put inside there a mandrel that is shaped like the rifling that you want, the lands and grooves you want. You slip that pattern in there, made out of carbide, and then this barrel goes through a hammering machine. You got a hammer here, and a hammer here, and a hammer here, And those hammers are they're hydraulic, and they just bang, 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 bang. That barrel goes down through there. Bang, 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 bang. And I mean, when it gets to the end, that interior mold that's made out of carbide is going to leave its imprint on that softer, heated up barrel. And then you could heat it a little bit more. You could slip the mold out, let that cool, do whatever heat treating is necessary. But there is no more polishing. You don't have to run a diamond bit through there or a polishing cloth. You don't have to shoot it several thousand rounds to break it in, because it is going to be that standard. And that is a very precise method of doing that barrel. You will not shoot one of these barrels out in your lifetime. I mean, here's what I shoot. I shoot lead, and a soft piece of lead in a heat-treated piece of stainless, you're not going to wear it out. You just don't have to worry about that. This gun will last me the rest of my life and my son's life and probably his son's life. So, in the investment casting, let's go back to that. Precision investment casting. What is precision about it? Well, precision is how they injection mold that wax into a cavity and then coat it with the ceramic slurry and then the powder coating of white sand, special high temperature stuff, and then you bake it. Everything about it is very precision. It's so precise that some of the parts out of a precision casting facility can come out and need no further finishing on them. Now, some of them, the frames, they do run these frames through a jig and a fixture, and they check them for straightness. And if these bow up a little bit on you when they're cooling, they have a special jig that pushes down and it gets everything exactly level, and then they put it on dial indicators, and they've got a dial indicator here and here and here and here and here and every which way. And when that guy lays it in there, he's looking for a tolerance of from one gauge to another of 1/1000th of an inch. I know the cylinder lockup on these, the tolerance on getting that cylinder lined up with that bore is, I believe it's 1/1000th of an inch tolerance. These cylinders are cut to a tolerance of 0.002, which allows a variation of 1/1000th, plus or minus 1/1000th, a total of 2,000. Those are tight tolerances, friend. Those are really, really tight tolerances. And the way that this gun is built, it's super strong in its lockup, because you've got this small tab here that locks the cylinder in place, keeps it from rotating. You've got the pin itself in the back that's right there that helps to lock the gun into place when you close the cylinder. And then this part is probably a little harder to show, but right there, if you'll look at the front of that frame where that can swing out, there's a little tab. That little tab, it's kind of hard to show, but it's right there. That little tab is spring-loaded, and when you close that cylinder, it goes into a slot that's mounted in the frame. Now, let's see if I can get the details on that. This is going to be tricky, but I'm going to get it, because you got to see this. Okay, see that little slot right there? It's right below the barrel, the forcing cone, and it's kind of rectangular shape, been machined into the frame. So when you close this gun, and I'm going to try to do this carefully, I don't want to piss off my revolver buddies. You close that up, that's locking, that little piece in the front, that's locking in there. This tab on the bottom, this little paw, it comes up and locks into one of these slots, and then the pin in the back is locking to hold it true to the center line of the cylinder. So you've got a triple lock, and if you wanted to go 4, actually when you pull the hammer back, there's a small paw that is pushing onto a ratchet. There's a ratchet in the back, and that is another point of load. Now, it doesn't have much load on it, but it can at least assist in keeping things all good and straight. That sets your timing. Now, I did a video with a hot dog strapped to the side of this gun. I put it on there with some blue painter's tape. I had the hot dog going over that cylinder gap. I was trying to teach youngsters and some older people that there is a big pile of fire that comes out of here, high pressure fire that comes out of that slot. So one guy said, well, your timing must be off on your revolver if you're getting any fire out of that. And I thought, well, sir, you're unfortunately, you're showing your ignorance, because All revolvers have a gap. It could be 2 thousandths, 3 thousandths, 4 thousandths. In fact, we could check it. A piece of paper is 4 thousandths, and I'm not sure how that'll fit in there, but it did. It fit. So it's at least 4 thousandths, and it may be 5 or 6, but you don't want it so stinking tight that the gun won't operate. You have to have a gap between the cylinder and the forcing cone of the barrel, and that's where your fire comes out. If you put a hot dog there, strap that hot dog on with some painter's tape, keep your hand away from it, keep your hand back here on the grips, and you pull that hammer back with a 44 Magnum, it's going to cut that hot dog in half. One guy said, well, your finger's tougher than a hot dog. I hope it is, but I'm still not going to lay my finger right there because there is a high pressure band of fire. It's flat as can be, but it comes out of that and then it disperses out into a big eruption, into a cloud, and then it dissipates. But don't put your finger in this area right here when you're shooting a revolver. Always keep your hands back here in the black grip area. Now, let's continue to talk about this revolver. These things, not only are they tough, Ruger has also done proof loads on these. So the way that they make sure these guns are ready to go no matter what, I'm going to let this fall out. Don't freak out on me. I'm going to let it ease out now. Easy, 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 easy. Oh, it fell out. See, now that ruined the whole gun. It's going to fall apart now. So they take a proof load. So if this gun is rated at a pressure of, let's just say for ease of math, about 40,000 pounds, they will add 50% of that. So take half of 40, which is 20, put it back on it, and they'll take a 60,000 round proof load and put it in every one of those cylinders, and they will fire that, and then they will check that cylinder, make sure there's no cracks, no stress problems. They will measure it. There are several things that they can do on these. One thing that they do is something that we did in the oil field, which is called MPI, Magnetic Particle Inspection. And what that means is you take this gun, and it is magnetic. It's got iron in it. Iron will stick to the trigger, the frame, the cylinder, the barrel. It's all got iron in it. But MPI testing, what they do is they magnetize this, heavily magnetize, and then you pour that powder over it, and that powder's is got iron in it, and then you use a black light. Our guys would always take a black cape, put over their head, and layer it down over the part, so they built them like a little cave they could take with them. And then they shine that black light on it, and what the black light would do is if there was a crack, even a hairline crack in there anywhere, those particles would line up on that crack. I'm talking about it could be just a little bitty crack. Of course, they're looking for edges and things like that. They'd be looking at the face of that cylinder, and it's not going to have a crack in it. It's that stout. Another thing that they do on investment casting is they will do X-ray. X-ray will be checking for porosity, making sure that there's not any dead zone somewhere in that cylinder, and you're just not going to have a problem with that. They get all that checked out before you get them. Now, I will say the cylinder on this is very strong. It's not made probably as strong as a 454, but the frame itself is the same frame as a 454. This extended part here, they designed this around the 454. They designed it around the 480 Ruger. So I'm very confident that I've got a gun that's built up to the specifications. Most of the specs on this gun are built up for a lot higher power round than the 44 Magnum. Like I say, the cylinder and the barrel are the exception. Those are made out of that custom 465 and some 7000 series stuff for the barrel because it has to have the flame on it. Different materials. But it's very, very interesting to do some study on what Ruger did and how they come up with this. These frames, notice it doesn't have a side plate. You buy a Smith & Wesson, it's got a side plate on it. This doesn't have a side plate. And someone will say, well, I see that thing there. That's not a side plate. That is a stud that goes through there. That is the axle for your hammer. And then on this side, they make it flat so you can pry that out. Once your grip is off, you can pull that out, pull the hammer out. I mean, it's a very simple construction. One of the reasons that Rugers don't cost as much as some of the other ones is not because they use cheap parts. Their investment casting process is a very expensive process. but they are built simpler. They are just simpler design. They built efficiency into their design. This grip I absolutely love. Now this is made by Hogue. This is an absorbing grip. I love that because it's got some material in there that can take the pressure. And that material, I think it may have an air pocket or something in there. But to change this grip out, you're talking about one screw. One simple screw. You can pull that screw out, and inside there is a little metal stirrup made out of spring steel. It's sitting on 2 studs, and you can just pull that out and pull the grip off. You can leave that little stirrup in place if you're putting a different grip on. Maybe you want a bigger grip. Maybe you want one that's just plain, doesn't have finger grooves. This is more of a combat style. Maybe you want wooden grips. They make wooden grips. They make wooden grips that have rubber inserts in them. They make all different kinds of grips, but you're talking about 5 minutes, and you can take that screw out, drop you in a different grip, and you're good to go. So let's talk about what they did for sights. You can see this has fully adjustable rear sight. I love that. That's always good to have. Make sure you're hitting your target. On the front, they used a real good quality fiber optic sight, and that can easily be removed. This gun's been checked empty over and over again, but to remove that, this one, it screws. You take these screws out, and you can pull that sight off and swap the sight around, change the sight very easily. So I like that design. Very good design. And very easy to change. Now, if you wanted to put a scope on this, these guns come with these half-moon cutouts. You can see that right there. And Ruger sells in the box, comes with a set of rings that's made for a 1-inch scope. And these little half-moons, that's where your scope rings mount onto. And then you could tighten your scope rings down good on your scope. And you get ready to change it out, you just undo the screws on each side and leave your rings on your scope, and you can shoot open-sided. Then you decide you want to go deer hunting, you slap it back on, you're not going to lose your zero. I would always check it, but you're definitely going to stay pretty tight. Now, so what if you want to mount a red dot on there? Well, there's a company called Ultra Dot that makes a tubular red dot, and it is designed to be mounted like a conventional scope. So you wouldn't have to do any weird mounting back here. You could just use your standard rings that come in the box with the Ruger. And the Ultra Dot is 1-inch diameter. They call it a 25. And it will slip right in there, and you'll be up and ready to roll. So it was easy to bust a move to come up with this particular gun. I had to go through the Ruger Super Blackhawk. I didn't care for the single action. I like a double action better. I went through the model 629 made by Smith & Wesson. Didn't take me long to shoot it loose. Smith & Wesson was good to me. I sent it back in a factory box, and they got it all tightened up and got it where it would shoot again. But they kind of frowned on me shooting my own hand loads out of it. Said it's not designed for heavy-duty hand loads. Now, I want to talk to you about that. The hand load that you see right here, I think I've even got some specs on it. I call it Plus Hot Plus, and it's not really all that hot. You can see when I made that. That's been a while back. 18 grains of 2400 powder. The bullet is a 310 cast with the Lee casting mold, and that is a nice bullet right there, I'm telling you. For Magnum work, notice I've got a good heavy roll crimp so that bullet does not slip out of the case when you're shooting a Magnum load. You want to make sure you put a good heavy roll crimp, because if you don't, everything will go rearward, and in space, that bullet will be left behind. So it will suck that bullet right out. Actually, the bullet stays in place, and the case goes out from underneath it like this. Boom, and then it leaves your bullet behind. So kind of like a piano in a truck. You got a piano in a truck, teenager slams the gas pedal down on the truck at the green light. Say, my gosh, the piano went out the back. No, the piano didn't do anything. The piano sat still and the truck drove out from underneath it. That's how that works. It looks like the piano went out the back, but the piano has too much mass. So same thing with the lead. When you don't crimp that properly and you shoot it, let's say the gun's going this way, the gun goes that way. Let's see if I can do this. The gun goes boom and recoils. That just leaves this behind. So always a good roll crimp. That's a 310 grain hard cast. It's a flat met plate. You can see that's very flat. And when you shoot a pig with that, one guy says, well, it's just going to make the same size hole coming and going. That wasn't true at all. I shot a pig, and the hole on the outgoing side of that pig was about the size of a baseball. So how did that happen? Did the bullet expand? No, that bullet caught a bone or something and just drug it right on through. And it blew him out the backside, and he died. He didn't even oink. He just dropped, and I had the grill fired up, and about 3 hours later, we were cooking him. So this did a fantastic job on a pig. On a deer, this will shoot right through a deer. And you put it in a 45-70, a bullet similar to that, you can shoot him stem to stern from one end to the other. But whether it's out of a revolver, you could take this revolver and you could shoot at open sights if you're good, or if you want to get out in the woods and get a little bit longer range, this is an excellent gun to take those factory scope rings, comes right with it, and put you on a nice ultra red dot or a 2X scope made by Weaver, or maybe one made by Leopold. Don't bother trying to put a 3x9, or you need something that just gives you a little magnification, but it won't show all your hand movement. So a 2X is plenty. Or the ultra red dot. It's not one of the little small windshield type. It's a tubular red dot. They've been around for years and years and years. People use them on 45s for 50-yard bullseye shooting, probably back in the probably 70s, at least 80s. They use that ultra dot. So look it up, ultra dot, on the old Google machine, YouTube it, ultra dot, 25 millimeter. So that way you can use your factory rings that comes with the gun. I need to have these laying out so I can show them to you, but everybody knows what rings look like. But they come in the box with the Ruger Super Redhawk. So use some of those, and then you can get out in the field and you could hunt a deer out 50 yards. You could even go out, if you wanted to tell the big story, you go out to 100 yards. If you're good enough, you can go for it. So that shows you that. Now, another beauty of these Ruger Super Redhawks in the 44 Magnum is you could take a round like this, and I've hand-loaded this. You can see that clearly. 18 grains of 2400. It's pretty hot. 310 grain lead hard cast bullet. That's 44 Magnum. I just use a Winchester standard primer, and these are just mixed cases, once fired cases. But anyway, that makes a very nice hunting load. You can kill deer with it, kill hog, and kill pretty much anything. You could even use it for dangerous game if you wanted to. You might want to bump that up even a little bit more. Follow your book specification on that for safety. But this gun, you could have a bear coming in on you. It's a double action, and that bear starts coming in on you pretty hard. You can take that gun and work that trigger as fast as you can pull it, and you can put 6 rounds on him. When he's coming at you, you're not going to get a chance to reload, but 6 rounds should get the job done. Now, once you're done with your 44 Magnum work, say, well, I'd like to make that into a target gun. Here's what you do. You take this gun. It comes with a set of rings from Ruger, be in the box. Anyway, you break those out. Those rings clamp on here, and they're very strong stainless steel rings, 1-inch diameter. And then get you an ultra dot, red dot on there, and you can turn this into a very nice target gun. So here's what I use for that. I don't shoot the 44 Special. I learned a long time ago. I learned it from my 357 Magnum days. If you shoot a 357 and then you shoot 38 Specials, it'll burn a ring in the cylinder that's a little shorter than the 357. Next thing you know, you'll be getting jammed up. You'll be cleaning your gun all the time. So when I'm doing 44 Magnum, I go ahead and stick with this case, okay? Shoot a whole bunch of these empty. I've got a whole bunch of them upstairs in the man cave. And I'll take that case, a regular 44 Magnum case, and then instead of using that 2400 powder, that's a Magnum powder, H110 or 2400, those are both Magnum powders. I'll switch over to these. I buy these on the internet. Let me dump some of these out. Dump some of these out here. I'll use these nice little pop gun. They'll shoot through anything also, but within reason. But these are 180 grain, and the lower your bullet weight, the less recoil you're going to get. So you could take one of these little bad boys, you could take one of those in a 180 grain and take you about 6 grains of unique powder, staying in that same 44 Magnum case. You could use a Magnum primer if you're nervous. You won't need it. But all kinds of MD Smith reloading. It's got all kinds of light loads. And now you're loading like a 44 special, but you're loading it in a 44 Magnum case. That way you don't have to have your press set up and keep changing back and forth. You can use a 44 Magnum case and about 6 grains of unique. You could also use Bullseye, small dose of Bullseye. I just prefer to use the unique on this application. And it's a very good quality powder. I use it in my 45-70. You can use it in a shotgun. You can use it in 9mm Luger. So there's the round. That's a 180. You'll notice it does have a little bit of a kind of a flat met plate on it. There's a met plate on the top. And it's a rounded nose. You don't have to worry about functionality in a revolver. It'll shoot through it, no problem. But that's a good load, about 6 grains. Now you're down in the same range as a 44 Special or like a 45 Long Colt or 45 Colt, if that makes you feel better, say it that way. There's no such thing really as a Long Colt. There's a 45 Colt and a 45 ACP, automatic Colt pistol. So anyway, that's a nice round. That'll put you right at about 750, about like BB gun speed, 750, 800, and you can poke holes in paper all day long. You could also use that for home protection. You're not going to just shoot through the whole wide world with it. I would still prefer to use the hollow point for that, but worst case scenario, if this is what you had laying around, your target load, target gun, still going to get the job done. Very few people are going to walk into a stream of those. So I hope this helps you realize how versatile this gun is. It can be used for super magnum duty. You can use it to kill, like I say, bears, deer, hogs, pretty much anything. And then if you want to switch over to target use, you just switch right over from your 44 Magnum round, which I've got loaded here. I wouldn't go much higher than that. There's no need. And you switch over to your light stuff with the 6 grains of the unique powder, and I think you'll be happy with that. Say, well, why did you pick the 44? Why not go with the 480 Ruger? Well, go to the store and try to buy some 480 Ruger ammo, and you'll see why. You can get into $60, $70, $80 for 20 rounds, and I'm just not going to spend $3 or $4 for a bullet. I build these. I don't even want to tell you what these cost. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I can build these little light loads for probably 10 cents a piece. I've got a lifetime supply of 44 Magnum brass. My most expensive part's a primer, which is 10 cents. And the powder at 6 grains of unique, you're probably talking about another 10 cents, maybe 15. So I can be at 20, 30 cents, you know, at the most on these. Let's say 20 cents and 20 rounds, so you're $4 for a box of 20. On these, I might be all the way up to $5 or $6 for a box of 20. But I've seen some 454 stuff. I'm telling you, you get in a 454 on one of these, you better really need a 454. You better be using that as a backup Alaskan bear thing, because that ammo is going to run you $100 a box. If you buy the Buffalo Bore Plus P Plus heavy duty stuff for dangerous game, you're going to be spending $100 plus tax and shipping. You're going to be well over $5 for each live round of ammo. I'm not spending $5 for that. I will not go over 50 cents for that one round right there. And I can load that and polish it and shine it. And I could notch the tip, cut the tip into squares if I wanted to, make it be radical. I could do all kinds of wild stuff and stay well under 50 cents per round and kill pretty much anything on the earth. How did we come up with the 44 Magnum? Well, today is what that's about, and I am very happy with my Ruger Super Redhawk. I love the extended frame, I love the strength of it, and I love that you can do a whole lot of things with it. First off, let's take a look at the weight. We're at 3 pounds, 4.5 ounces. Comes out to about 52, 53 ounces total. We'll just call it a 3-pound gun, and that's really good for me. That's where I like to be on a good, strong 44 Magnum. And barrel length, that's another factor for me. This gun has been checked empty several times. So we'll lay this ruler out. Let's talk about this barrel. This barrel is supposed to be a 7.5. So we will lay this down like that. Try to get this barrel lined up with the end of the ruler. See how close we can get to that. I think we'll be really close, about right there or so. Looks pretty close. And you can see that comes back to the gap back here, which is right at 7.5. Make sure we're not cheating too much. 7.5, 7.5. So that's the forcing cone on the face of that is 7.5. So that's a good length barrel. I like that. When they make this in a 7.5 and they make it a 9.5, and you get the Alaskan and it'll fit in your pocket. I think it's a 2 or 3. It's too short for anything for me. That's just for emergency bear control. But this is a good gun for do it all. So what do you mean by that? Well, I mean, you can deer hunt with the thing. Look at these loads over here. I've got some super loads that I built here. These are 18 grains of 2400. I've cast some bullets out of wheel weights. I'll just knock a little bit of that Alox lube off of them so you can see how pretty these are. There's a hard cast bullet. That's a 300. And what does it say here? That's a 310 grain hard cast made out of wheel weights, and that's a very good load for hunting. So there's your hunting load. So what else can you do with it? Well, that's a hunting gun. Or let's say you want to use this for home protection. You could buy yourself some nice 44 specials, and they will fit in this just fine. 44 special with a good hollow point, and you've got a double action revolver. You can fire it just as fast as you can pull that trigger 6 times. So, well, what do you do then? You run out of bullets. Well, believe it or not, they left a big enough gap in there between the back of the cylinder and the frame. There is a company, several companies, that build a nice spring-loaded star clip that goes in the back of this, a moon clip, and you could snap 6 shells together, have them in a pack. You could have them lined up on your bed stand or put them in a little holster there on your shorts, and you can go to town. You can do some work with this gun. 44 special. I would not use that load, obviously, for home protection, because you shoot through the bad guy and a wall and half your family, and maybe take out the neighbor too. So don't use 44 Magnum deer hunting rounds for home protection. That's overkill. It would do the job, but you better know your background 100%. So 44 special, you could do that. Now, if you're like me and you're wanting to turn this into a target gun, here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to take I bought a whole case of these bullets. These bullets were cheap, and these were, back in the day, I bought a whole bunch of them. I bought thousands of these from a bullet manufacturer. We'll talk about who it is later in the description. But these are a nice 180 grain. You can see it's just a simple little bullet. It's got a place to do a little roll crimp if you wanted to roll crimp into that. And a little flat met plate. It's got a little bit of a rounded nose on it. And you could make a nice light target load. So that's what I'm going to do with this gun. I've decided I want a red dot on here. So what we'll do, Ruger in the box sends a set of stainless steel rings that clips right on these with a single screw on the side. I think it's even a knurled knob. And it'll clip here, one here, and one here. There's got one short and one tall. Short here, tall here, and it makes it level. And it will give you 2 1-inch rings. And then there's a company that's called Ultra Dot that makes a beautiful red dot. Looks like a standard scope, no magnification, and it will bolt right into that, and then I can switch back and forth. So if I want it to be a target gun, I just slip it on there with the rings, tighten one here, and now I've got my red dot on the top, and I've got the light loads in the back. I'll go ahead and put these in a 44 Magnum case so I don't have to keep up with 2 different kinds of brass. And just, I'll start off with about maybe 5 grains of unique, 5, and then a 5.5, and then a 6, and a 6.5, and I'll keep working until I find out what this barrel combination and that load combination, which one prints the very, very best smallest group. And if I find out that the unique doesn't work good for me, Then we'll swap over to the old bullseye, and we'll try some bullseye. But I will get this to where it's printing a nice small group with low recoil and have that red dot on the top, and I can shoot squirrels with it, rabbits, or anything else around the yard, snakes. Use it on the farm for target practice to shoot cans and all kinds of fun things, bowling pins. And then when I want to go out and do some tree trimming on some nice 3-inch and 4-inch saplings, we'll have a contest. We'll break out the old flat nose 44 Magnum, and I've done this. This is a lot of fun. Pick you a tree, get the distance that you feel comfortable with, 7 yards, 10 yards, 15, 20, and you put that bullet right there dead center in that sapling. Let's say it's a 3-inch. So you hit dead center, man, it will blow the back out of that tree. And then you move over a little to the left and shoot just to the left of that first bullet hole, and it'll blow the whole side of it out. Then you come back, aim for dead center, and you move just a little bit to the right of dead center and fire that shot. And you should be able to put a 3-inch sapling down with 3 shots if you're good. If you're not good, then you need to do some more practice or go ahead and step up a little closer. My friend and I used to do this. It's been 30 years ago, and it's been more than that. It's been, 35, almost 40 years ago. We'd step out in his backyard along a tree line and say, which one of those trees you want to put down? He'd say, heck, all of them. They're all just junk trees. Some of them were poplar, some of them were maple trees. They just needed to be trimmed down. So this is a good gun to do that practice with. Now, another thing we did out in the woods, he lived out in the sticks, is he had a little pond. So we would take the apples off of an old tree. It was loaded up with green apples. They were the size of a baseball, and we'd throw those apples one at a time, throw them out in the pond, and take that 44 Magnum. At the time, I was shooting the Super Blackhawk. Not my favorite. I definitely like this better. But Super Blackhawk, and here was what you did. Here was your goal. You'd aim at the apple dead center with your red dot and try to hit perfectly center on that apple. And if you did, you'd get a big slurry of applesauce. It would just erupt right there in the pond, and you'd see applesauce laying there in the water. Then if you wanted to show off, you'd aim at the apple, and you'd lower your red dot down just a little bit, maybe about a 1/2 inch right below the edge of the apple, and you shoot there, it'd make a big old hydraulic explosion right below the apple and put the apple 20, 30 feet in the sky. And then the other guy, he'd try to get fancy, and when the apple would hit, just as soon as it'd pop up, he'd try to turn it into applesauce. Or he could shoot it and try to make it go back up. You could see who could keep the apple up in the air the longest. So green apples in a pond, 44 Magnum, hard to beat. These, not that impressive, because that's just a target load. You need your 44 Magnum high-powered loads for that. But this gun, I'm telling you, you can do it all with this. You can also load if you're a hand loader, or if you want to waste a lot of money, you can buy shot shells for it, but I'd rather do them myself. You can, CCI sells a nice little clear container. You get some number 11 bird shot, get you a sack of it pretty cheap, and pour that full and put a little wadding in there, and you can make you some really nice shot shells. You can even have somebody sling clay pigeons, and don't tell your neighbor when he comes over to watch you shoot it, don't tell him you're shooting shot shells. Have somebody throw clay pigeons and shoot them. Don't let them get out there very far. And you can draw fast and shoot from the hip and shoot some clay pigeons, or have them throw a can up, shoot a tin can with it, and they'll think you're a really fantastic shot shooting it with that bird shot. And you can tell them the story later, or you can let them try it. It's a lot of fun. So shot shells, great for snakes. If you had to deal with snakes out on the farm, or maybe a rat, he's in the shed, you see that rat, and you don't want to blow a hole in your shed, or maybe it's just got a concrete floor and he runs out there to get something, and you can do some rat control, small stuff like that. Definitely good for snakes, for just taking care of rodent control there on the farm. They do a good job. So you can do deer hunting, you can do pig hunting, you could protect yourself from bears with this. Definitely would need a good holster that you put on your chest. I wouldn't want to try to do one from the hip. They make some really nice holsters that you can lay it right there on your heart, keep it near and dear to your heart. And 7.5, that's a great length barrel. And you've got that going all this is barrel. That barrel goes into the extended frame all the way back to the forcing cone, to the cylinder gap. Make sure you avoid that area right there, because fire does come out there and it'll burn you bad. So stay away from that cylinder gap. But there's your barrel, plenty of barrel. Very strong, made out of really high quality investment casting stainless steel. And Ruger does a great job on these. So I hope that this help you make that decision. They have a saying when you're buying scopes or buying guns, you want to just cry once. So go ahead and get the one that, don't make the mistake I did. Don't bother with, if you're going to shoot heavy hand loads, don't bother with a Smith & Wesson 629. Don't bother with a fancy Colt. Just don't bother with a single action Super Blackhawk, because there'll be a day that you want to shoot that thing fast, and that double action's very good for home protection, and very good if you're having to protect yourself from a bear. And I know you can fan the hammer of a single action, but it still doesn't give you the confidence that that double action combat style trigger will. And it can get the job done. So you can shoot heavy loads over here. You can shoot light loads over here. You could shoot some shot shells. You can do hard cast lead. You can do copper jacketed XTP hollow points if you want to really burn some money down. And the 44 Magnum is about as much handgun as what most people can handle. 454 is 50% more power, but they're $100 a box for ammo, so you're paying $5 per bullet. Help yourself. If you want to go that direction, get you a 454 Alaskan gun to protect yourself from a bear. That's a good choice, but you better really need it, because like I say, $5 a pop, man, for each round. When I was a lot younger man, we'd spend $5 a pop to buy 50 cal like they used in the military, so we could shoot a bolt action Barrett 50 cal, and we'd go ahead and pony up and buy 10 rounds of that, $50, and have a blast shooting that big old 50 cal out there on the range. But I don't want to spend $5 on a revolver bullet. That doesn't make any sense to me. I can build those right there all day long for under 50 cents. I've got a lifetime supply of 44 Magnum brass, and you can collect the same, buy them once fired. You can pour your own bullets out of wheel weights, makes a great bullet. And then you could switch over to whatever powder you like. You don't have to have that much powder. And if you want to do really light loads, you can use like I say, the Bullseye or the Unique on this, about 5 or 6 grains of that, and you're in good shape for a bullet that'll kill most anything and still be easy to contain the recoil. That's the thing with target. If you want to use this as a target gun, you need to get out of the 44 Magnum stuff. Now, there's nothing wrong with blasting apples and shooting blocks in half and cinder blocks and all that, but you will find after a few rounds that you're going to start getting a little bit recoil sensitive. You're going to develop a little bit of a flinch. You can have some wrist trauma in your hand where you no longer are holding real good and steady. So if you're wanting to shoot hundreds of rounds for target, you definitely want to go that route. 180 grain bullet and just a little pinch of the Unique. Look it up in your book. Make sure you follow book specification. But you can download that all the way down to about 750 feet a second, maybe 800 BB gun speed. And like I say, it'll get the job done. It'll take care of most anything on the farm. But it definitely good for target shooting, low recoil, low flash, and very cheap to build that particular round. And just stick with your 44 Magnum case. You'll be very happy with it. And if you're a beginning shooter, that's the place to start right there. Lightweight bullet, lightweight powder charge. Build the bullets yourself so you can enjoy shooting cheap. And then once you get more skill level, then you can swap over to the 44 Magnum. My favorite powder is that 2400 powder, but H110 is also another good powder. It's for when you want to go even a little bit hotter. It's a little bit higher pressure, a little hotter round. But with that 7.5-inch barrel, you'll be burning all the way down the length of that with these slower powders like the 2400. And it'll give you good velocity. It won't be a big loud bang. It's going to be more of a good solid push. It's another thing I love about the Ruger Super Redhawk is the way they did this grip. That grip lines up really close with the barrel. So unlike your cowboy style that have the plow handles that come way down here, those plow handles like the Smith has and the Colt has, that tends to put that gun rocking up on you and getting a lot of muzzle climb, a lot of muzzle flip. But with this gun, you've got your hand up there closer to the bore, and what'll happen is you'll get a lot more of a straight back boom with especially that kind of powder right there. You'll get a good, out of the 2400 powder, you'll get a boom straight back, and you can really control it good. It'll give you a lot more confidence. So, you see the pieces in the back look like little chess pieces. I say make your move very carefully, but you're not going to ever make a wrong move when you go with the Ruger Super Redhawk. The new Super Redhawk with the extended frame, stainless steel 44 Magnum. You got a gun that will do everything you need to do, from home protection, target, deer hunting, hog hunting, killing bears, and taking care of bad guys, snakes if you need to do some shot shells for rats, mice, maybe even some birds to get rid of some old crows out of your garden, keep them from eating your corn, and maybe a raccoon or two. So just a great gun. It's one you can do pretty much everything with. Hope you enjoy this video. And please hit that like and subscribe button. We really appreciate that a lot. Thank you so very much. Over and out for now.